How's it, everyone? Welcome to another string review right here on Open Court. I'm Kent, and today I'm reviewing a Dunlop string that was sent to me by a viewer of this channel, actually. His name is Kyle, so thank you so much, Kyle, for sending me this string. That string is the Dunlop Explosive Bite. Let's check it out. So thank you again, Kyle, for sending me this string. He actually sent me a whole bunch of strings that I'm looking forward to trying in the future, but this was the string I was most interested in because I did review the Dunlop Explosive Spin way back in the early days of this channel. It was one of my very first reviews, actually, and that string reminded me a lot of Babala RPM Blast. It was a very dead and muted playing string. This string, on the other hand, I heard is a little bit more lively and a little bit softer, which is what a lot of people ask me to review soft strings. I don't really like soft strings that much, but if I do have the opportunity to review one for you guys, I'm more than happy to try it. So this Explosive Bite is known for its unique triangular shape here. I don't know if you can see it on the package. I'll just put the design up on the screen. It has this triangular shape with these ridges that is meant to grip and bite the ball to provide massive amounts of spin. On the back here, it's actually highlighted in yellow, comfort and spin. So this Explosive Bite is meant to be a soft, comfortable poly that is also meant to grab the ball to provide spin. This string comes in two colors, the black and yellow, and it comes in two gauges, the 130 and the 125mm, and it runs about $17 for a set, which is not super expensive, but it's also not really what I would call a budget poly. Actually, my mistake. This string comes in 132 and 127mm gauges, which is pretty unique. I have the 127mm and I'm testing it in the yellow color in my Head Extreme Tour Night Edition. I decided to string it in this instead of my Dunlop CX200, which is, I usually like to pair strings with the racket, but I decided to string it in this because it's yellow and I thought it would look good in this yellow and black racket, and it does. And this is also a spin-oriented racket, so I want to see if this Explosive Bite can further enhance the spin potential of this racket. So usually I string strings at 52 pounds as my reference tension, but I heard this string is a little bit on the softer side, so I strung it at 53 both ways. So thank you again, Kyle. I'm excited to get this out on the court. So let's jump on the court and let's see how the Explosive Bite plays. So let's start with the pros of the Dunlop Explosive Bite. First off, the feel is quite different from what I expected. It isn't a super soft, mushy string like the Head Lynx or Polyfiber TCS, but it also isn't a firm string either. It bends and flexes like a multi, but it still gives good feedback on full swings. This string is comfortable enough that I think players who like soft polys or want something that won't hurt their arm will be satisfied by the comfort level. I usually don't really like soft polys, so I was pleasantly surprised to find that this string still gave me good feedback. I strung it at 53, and honestly, I think if I were to play with it again, I would string at 55 instead. The flexible string bed led to good dwell time. Whenever I hit the ball cleanly in the sweet spot, I could feel the strings bending and forming a pocket around the ball. This is probably why this string had decent feel for a softer poly. Most soft polys will dissipate the feel if it is too mushy, but that wasn't the case with this string. This ball pocketing also results in good power as I felt the ball slingshotting out of the strings. I was surprised by my flat serve, my two-handed backhand, and my volleys. My flat serve into the corner was putting pressure on my opponent, and I could follow it up with an approach shot or volley. My two-handed backhand also penetrated deep into the court, and I could keep my opponent pinned back behind the baseline. I found it very easy to punch volleys deep as well. The transition volley when approaching the net after a serve is a very difficult shot, but the Explosive Bite made that shot pretty easy. All I really had to do was block the ball in front of my body and I could get it deep. Height control wasn't quite as consistent, but that could be solved as long as I watched the ball carefully and made contact in front. Half volleys were also pretty easy to roll over the net. Again, height control on half volleys was a bit difficult, but I could get the half volley deep if I caught it in the sweet spot and I could move up and get in good position at the net. This string is called Explosive Bite, and that was true for the most part. I don't really have a vertical swing, so maybe those who have tried this string and swing more low to high can comment, but I did feel the strings displacing and snapping very well on my topspin forehands. I noticed the string performed especially well on forehands below my waist. When I swung upward, the string would grab the ball and I could hit a shot that would dive sharply. On the run forehands or defensive forehands were easy to lift up over the net as well. I never really felt I was outmatched on a point even when I was running out wide or backing up behind the baseline. The snapback was especially noticeable on the kick serve. To be clear, this wasn't the best kick serve that I've ever hit. That honor still belongs to the 𝐦𝐨𝐬 V-Torque Tour, but the Explosive Bite produced kick serves that dove sharply onto the lines and bounced above my opponent's shoulders. The kick serve is the stroke that I use to judge a string's spin potential most. One of the most satisfying feelings for me is when I see the opposing returner stretching out with their backhand and struggling to return my kick serve. More often than not, I was able to force my opponent into defensive returns and I could take command of the point. On slice serve though, I had a tendency to send them past the sideline I was aiming at. My guess is that the ball is sitting on the string slightly longer than polys I typically use. That leads to more slingshotting off the string bed, and that's what caused my slice serves to fly wider than usual. As a result, I chose to use the slice serve into the body more often to give myself more margin for error. The added power combined with the mid-air movement made my slice serve a reliable weapon. Lastly, I want to comment on the feel. I mentioned earlier that the Explosive Bite is soft but not mushy. This made hitting touch shots easier than I thought, and I was really happy for that. I like to utilize a variety of drop shots, angles, and touch shots. I usually struggle with controlling touch with a soft string, but I was still able to use my finesse game without much difficulty. I had a bit of difficulty with controlling the height and depth of my drop shots, but the angle volleys and short angle ground strokes were easy and I could pull my opponent off the court. I reviewed the Dunlop Explosive Spin on this channel a couple years ago, and this Explosive Bite is a decidedly different string. The Explosive Spin is stiffer and much more dead in its response. It's more akin to RPM Blast. The Explosive Bite is softer, a bit more responsive, and I'm glad there's different strings because that gives players more options in their string choices. Now let's move on to the cons of the Dunlop Explosive Bite. The biggest con with this string is probably what most people will like about it, and that's the soft feel. I know this is contradictory because I just put this in the pros section, but that is more of an objective opinion. I think most players will like the soft feeling, but for me personally, I like stiffer strings that give more direct feedback on aggressive swings. No doubt the comfort will be a boon for players since I get many requests to review softer polys. Shots hit outside the sweet spot had no jarring sensation or pain in my wrist at all, but at the same time I couldn't really feel where on the string bed I was hitting, and that made me feel a bit disconnected in my offensive game. At the net, I still found good touch, so that wasn't really an issue. The issue I had was I couldn't find a good rhythm on my aggressive ground strokes because I was disconnected and I couldn't drop the ball inside the corners or the sidelines. I was a bit timid aiming for smaller targets because the control and command on my ground strokes was not there. When I found myself in a baseline rally, I would often aim near the middle of the court and rely on depth and spin to wear my opponent down. This might be a good thing for me because I lack patience in a baseline rally and I often go for the winner too early, but the fact I would tense up on an approach shot or when changing direction made this string a bit unreliable. This lack of pinpoint control on ground strokes became worse after the tension dropped. This is the main issue most people have with soft polys, and unfortunately the Explosive Spin is not immune to tension loss. That being said, I didn't notice a sharp drop off like some other strings, but I did notice a difference between the first and second sessions. My forehand started to fly longer and I had a harder time corralling flatter shots. I noticed this most on approach shots. I would tense up because I knew if I didn't come over the ball, my approach shot would sail long. Confidence is key in tennis, and I ended up becoming timid on my ground strokes as time passed. On the plus side, my volleys and overheads actually became better once the strings dropped tension a bit. I felt additional ball pocketing and feel, and I had more confidence on my finesse volleys. During the first play session, I was staying back on the baseline and rallying, but during the second one, I started coming up at every opportunity. But this isn't necessarily a good thing. A string that forces you to play differently is never something I would recommend to anyone. So, who is the Dunlop Explosive Bite string for? It's for players who want something comfortable but not too mushy and wants a string that will produce massive spin potential. To be clear, the string alone is not going to produce massive spin. That is all on the player, but the Explosive Bite can definitely enhance the spin if you've got the mechanics. For reference, I felt the Black Widow string produces a bit better spin. The explosive spin is at the bottom of the 3 Dunlop strings I've tried in terms of spin, but that one holds tension the best and has the deadest feel. I would recommend the explosive spin to those who already have aggressive strokes, but overall, the explosive bite is more for someone who also wants comfort and power. So thank you again, Kyle, for sending me these strings. If anyone wants to send me anything to try, please contact me anytime and let me know in the comments what your favorite Dunlop string is. Mine is currently the Black Widow, and I still have many more things to try, including the new CX200 Tour racket. As soon as I can get my hands on that, I will review that for you guys. Thank you everyone for watching this review of the Dunlop Explosive Bite string right here on OpenCourt. If you guys like this content, be sure to overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an OpenCourt.